Welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Today I have a long requested video for you guys. I am going to do a completely glueless lace frontal install on a mannequin. I will be using a 13x6 HD lace frontal from hairmainfocus.com. It blends seamlessly on me, it blends seamlessly on the mannequin, and it'll blend on you as well. I am wearing a U-part wig that I made 6 years ago, actually, using bundles from hairmainfocus.com. I also do make custom wigs. This shirt is from Jamrock Department. They also have a men's collection. There's hoodies, t-shirts, cropped hoodies, sweatshirts, cropped t-shirts, and more to come. So this is Miss Aaliyah. Aaliyah came in today for a sewing frontal install. Aaliyah does not like glue, so we are gonna completely sew her down with no form of adhesive. So let's get into the braiding pattern. So if we were gonna do a closure, the braiding pattern will be a little bit different. We will braid one here, starting at the temple, braid it down as close to the hairline as possible, and then bring it back. You know, the rest of them go straight back. And you do your zipper braids or whatever technique you like to do in the back, but I like to do the zipper braids where you bring one up into the next and continue down, but you'll see that as I braid for this install. And the same thing on this side, you will braid it straight down and then around the ear. Now the reason that we do that for the closure is because the closure probably stops here. If you're doing like a 5x5, so these braids will be the anchor. So if you were to do straight back, you know, the braid right here is not gonna be tight and secure. Those little hairs will pull out. So if you do it this way, it'll be a more sturdy foundation for you to sew the closure on and pull it taut as you stitch the little edges, okay? So now let's get into this braiding pattern for the frontal. Now all we're gonna do is go straight back, nothing fancy. So for the frontal, we do straight back. For the closure, we do a L braid by the temple. Now, this is just for demonstration purposes, so I'm going to be taking big sections. I like to braid one going straight across the back. So a lot of people, they just go up and down like this in the back. I feel like that can rip out your back hairline, your nape area. It could pull that out because the hair is being over directed up, and that hair is very fragile back there. So I do a braid going across, and you will see that in a second. Now when braiding, if you're using braiding hair or not, I would suggest using braiding hair. At least do every other braid with braiding hair so that we know we have that security. But you want to start as close to the front as possible. So what I like to do is I just took a little section and I'm just braiding that in a plait 2 to 3 times, and then I'm going to start connecting it because that prevents the braid from sliding because you already have a solid braid in the front. So as you can see, the braid starts right at the front. You want to keep the braids medium to small, depending on the thickness of the hair. And you just braid straight back. Now, when I get to the nape, I have a section that goes right across the back. And then I bring that across. So now the next braid is going to be on this side, straight back, but we're gonna grab this end and then I'm gonna connect them. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys how to zipper the braid, meaning how to pick one braid up into the next. So I'm just gonna braid it straight back. So when you get to about midway, a little bit past the highest part of the head, the crown of the head, you wanna go ahead and pick up the previous braid. If the hair is shorter, then you go down a little bit more. You braid it down a little bit more. But you wanna pick up the braid, my arm is in the way. You wanna pick up the braid where the braid gets thin. So anywhere from here down, because at the top, if I was to pick it up from here, this is thick. So you're gonna have a big bulge, or depending on how thick the client's hair is, you wanna pick it up at a thinner part. Even if it's thick all the way to down here, you pick it up down here where it's thin. So I'm just gonna grab the braid and I'm gonna add it. I'm gonna add the braid into between my pointer and my thumb. And then I'm just gonna continue to braid it. Sorry. Okay. That's the best way I can explain it. So you grab it where it's thinner, you just add it up into the braid and you continue down. As you can see, the braid did not get any thicker. It's about the same consistency because I added it up at the tip of the braid where it was already thin. And you just continue the braid down. And that is why I braid the braid to the end so that it's more secure. And so that, like say if I was to stop the braid here, this will just unravel as I'm braiding this. But also, if I'm gonna pick the braid up into the next braid, I will have all of this loose just in the middle of her head, just right here, just chilling. So I'm gonna braid it. You don't need to go all the way to the tip, but close enough to where it doesn't unravel. So I'm gonna stop there. Then you go on to the next one. Grab the previous braid, bring it in. Continue to braid. And we have one braid left. So now what I do with this, I take this and I stitch it right in that space. So now when you're sewing your tracks on, there's no space here. And it also helps to relieve some tension here because as I sew, I'm bringing these down a little bit. These are gonna come down a little bit so you don't have that pulling. So there's no ripping out of any hair down here. So I will just stitch this in here, and because it's long, you know, I'll just bring it up and lay it against one of the braids. Before I braid, I normally ask my client where does she want to part her hair, because I personally don't like to use the stocking cap. I know a lot of people do it. I don't like it. In my mind, it's just lace. It's under the lace, so you already have the lace, and then you have the stocking cap. You can't get to your scalp at all, and you're sweating. The stuff can't get out. The stocking cap is holding it in. You know, going to the gym, whatever. Your head is hot, but also when you wash your hair, do you take the whole thing off? Because you don't necessarily have to until maybe like a month into it is when you need to take it off to get it tightened. So yeah, I don't do the stocking cap. So I ask them where they want their hair parted. Even if they want a side part and a C part, I will part it. So I'll do the C part and I'll still do straight back braids around that part. So even if the braids might come like this to go around the C part, that's fine. Because the main focus really is having that strong foundation at the hairline to secure the frontal. So we're gonna place it. You wanna find the center. My cat is in the way. Excuse me, Simba, get down. So you wanna find the center of the frontal. So I like to fold it. You find the center of the head. This is not, well, not really, well, yes, the center of the head. So I normally will leave a middle part just so it's easier that way, but I didn't do that this time. So you find the center of the head. You see how I have it maybe like an inch in front of the hairline? It doesn't necessarily have to be that far in front of the hairline, but you want to make sure, even if they have a widow's peak, you bring it in front of that widow's peak. You're going to have your client hold it. Tell them to move their finger. They hold it on top. Okay? I don't have a client. Well, I have a client, but she don't have no fingers. So I'm going to stick some pins in it. My cat decided he wants to hang out right here with me. So there he is. And you want to, I'm going to pin it in the back just to hold it in place. You don't necessarily need to do that when you have a client because they're going to be now holding it like this. Okay? You want your client to put their entire hand on the frontal and make sure they hold it good so it doesn't slide as you pull. Now, you flip it up, take one side, and this is why I told you to make sure you have the braids up to the front. This one, well, okay, yeah, it's there. It's just the hair is stupid. You wanna make sure you have the braid up to the front because that's gonna be your first stitch right in front. And you wanna take it in a couple of holes, not too much. Normally I use brown thread, so it's always easier to conceal brown thread over black. You put it, right now I have it through about 3 holes. Because if it is to rip, you don't want a gigantic hole. And you don't want any bunching of the lace. So you put it through a small hole. And this is the lock stitch method I'm using. So you can go through the lace or the braid. But you see how the thread creates a loop? I put the needle between the loop and I pull. And that's considered the lock stitch method. And then you continue on. So as my client is holding it, I'm also holding it. And I'm pulling. I'm not necessarily pulling as I stitch, but this section of the lace is pulled taut because I have my finger on it. I have my finger on it and then I'm holding it. So between these two right here and this, I'm pulling this part. I'm stretching it a bit and this finger is holding it in place as my client also holds it. So I'm gonna do that. And then when you get to the end, you can leave about an inch or a 1/2 inch of the lace unsewn. So I have about this much. It has not been sewn. That's fine. You don't need to do it all the way to the end because we're going to stitch it across anyway. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take the lace and I'm going to roll it. So I'm rolling it and I'm making sure to smooth it down as I go. You roll it and you smooth it. You do not have to go on the next braid. You can, or you could just keep rolling it down and then you're going to go onto the next braid. And same, I'm pulling the frontal as I go. Use your other hand to assist you if you need to. The client is still holding it because you're still pulling and you do not want the closure or the frontal to shift. I'm gonna bring it right up to the top, right up to that beginning of the braid. And I'm just gonna knot it. All right. And then you will do the same thing as you continue down, depending on how many braids you have. You roll and you sew. You could clip these out of your way. Right, I'm gonna knot it at the end. All right, so this side is kind of done. The lace did slip a little bit, but it's fine because it's a mannequin. On this side, you do the same thing. And this is the same thing that you would do if you had a closure. So you find the middle or wherever the client wants the part to be. You have your L-shaped braids. You stitch it going vertically on the braids. And then I'll show you what to do with a closure when you get to the end. So now your client can let go because this part is secure. So we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing on this side. So now we are going to stitch down the back. So get all the hairs out of your way. You're gonna have your client hold the side that you're not working on, pull it straight down. So you don't want the hair to go to the front. You don't want the hair to go to the back. You want it to go straight down. So you see how this is, there's like a lot of loose lace in the front when I do that. You see when I go back, we have bunching and buckling. You see when I go straight down, everything is this versus this. Everything is flat and smooth. So your client's holding one side, you're holding the other side, you're pulling straight down. I like to start from the middle. Lock stitch method. And I also like to use a net. So the net will not go underneath the lace. The net will go behind the lace. So I don't need to necessarily sew on the braids because you want to make sure the stitches are close together so there's no buckling. So I will be stitching on the braid and I will be stitching on the net. But in this case, I'm just stitching on the braid because that's what I have. But this can cause gapping in the lace if you do not have that net for the extra security. And you're gonna sew it all the way down until you get to not just the last braid, but the tip of the last braid, as far as the tip, meaning the part that is right at the edge of the hairline. The part of the braid that is right at the edge of the hairline. So you want to sew it down to here. You don't want to stop up here or in between the braid. You want to catch it at the end, right by your skin. All right, you do that. You knot it. I normally like to use 2 needles for everything. I got 1 needle here, I have 1 needle on the next side, I have 1 needle in the back, and normally I'll start another needle and I go down here. But because I only have 1, I'm just gonna cut it and then start on the next side so your client can let go. Then we're gonna go and we're gonna stitch down. Oh shoot. We're gonna go and we're gonna stitch down the next side. Same thing. You wanna pull it down taut. Pull it taut. Pull it straight down, sorry, and stitch. So straight down and stitch. Both sides are sewn down. Okay, so now we have these flaps to deal with and the hairline. So even though, you know, the lace is nice and HD, you can't tell, it's flapping. Okay, so this baby has a very weird hairline. Everybody's hairline is different. So as a stylist, you can either place it on your client's hairline and customize it, or you can sew it down first and then customize it. Because for a client like this, with this square hairline, you know, her hairline goes like this, I would put the closure down and then cut out these pockets. But you want to make sure when you put the closure down, it is fully in front of all of her hair, even if it's this low on her forehead. Because then my cat, he just always want to be in things. He's huge, I know. So, where was I? You put it directly in front of the hairline. On the sides, even if it reaches down here, because then you have to customize it. Because it's better to have the hair down here and customize it versus having, like I have on this side, you see her hair is out right here. But the only reason that this happened is because I do not have a client holding it, so it wasn't as secure, but this side came out fine. Everything is covered. Okay? So now we're gonna go on to the flaps. Everything is secure. Now this is the most important part, to get these sides down and to get the lace to lay flat in the front. Unbraid this, all right? Pull the lace. You want to find the last braid. Find the last braid. Pin it up out your way. Now we're going to pull this down. Pull this down. If you need your client to hold it in the front, ask your client to hold it in the front. And this is where you get out any buckling or bulging that you might have acquired as you went. So because this part slid back, because I didn't have anybody holding it, there's a buckle right here, okay? So I will have my client pull this to the front. Or you can cut it and then stitch it back again. cut it, stretch it, stitch it back again. So I'm just gonna pull it. I don't necessarily need to pull it in the back. Actually, I'm gonna pin it so it doesn't, I do need. I am so sorry. I did not know that my big head was in the camera until it was time to edit. So let me do a quick voiceover. You're going to stretch the flap down, and then the section that I told you to find the braid and part it out, you're going to stitch right in that section onto the braid. This step is very important because when we start pulling the lace to get the front and the sides flat, nothing will move. And we don't want anything up in here to be disturbed. So this step locks in everything that's up in here. So if up in here nice and flat, it'll stay that way. And this is why I like to use brown thread, because if it is parted, even though I don't think you will part it this deep, but it can always be covered with makeup or whatever to look more natural, versus the black will be very obvious to see. You're gonna do the same thing to the other side. I like to just bring it through and I cut it underneath, so I don't have any ends sticking out on top of the lace. So now here is where you cut it around the ear. I'm not gonna cut it because I am going to make a wig with this frontal, and who knows, I think I might sell it, because this curl, if you remember the beginning of the video, the curl on this frontal is so pretty. It was just braided and I just took it out and, you know, I'm manipulating it. So it looks crazy now, but I'm going to use this to make a wig, so I'm not going to cut it. So now you want to part it out around the ear, and then you will cut this. Okay? So after I just put the stitch in across, I put the stitch in across on the next side. You cut around the ear on both sides. I am going to just flip it up. Okay? So I'm going to kind of act like this is cut. So this is the second part of the most important part. Everything that I'm doing right now is important because this is how your frontal lays flat. She's folded, cut around the ear for you guys. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna have a tip right here. This is where you start. So you could go, so this braid, that's why I said to use braiding hair. So you're gonna use braiding hair on the perimeter braids, so the one on this side, the one on this side. And you can do every other. If you like to do every other, that's fine. I would, just so you can have that security in the front. So you're gonna grab it from somewhere behind, not too far down. And then you're gonna grab the tip and you are going to pull. So you're gonna come down a little further on the braid. You're gonna go a little bit over on the lace. You're gonna go through. You're gonna knot it and you're gonna pull. So now all of this is gonna be redirecting back. That's why we needed that stitch in the front, so nothing up here gets disturbed. But this piece by the ear, it just gets tighter and tighter. You're gonna do it again, lower down on the braid, further up on the closure, on the frontal, grab it, and you pull it, okay? And you keep on doing that until you see the lace is flat. You do not need to go all the way to the front of the lace. You just wanna see that this part is flat. So like I said, it's gonna be a little bit hard for you to tell on my demonstration because I'm not cutting the lace, but this should lay flat as you go. So you're still gonna have the flap on the air because there's nothing holding it there. But that's fine because it's still gonna lay flat. And if you have HD lace, it's still gonna be, it's still gonna melt right in. Or you can always add a piece of the lace tape, or you know, the Eben spray to hold it in place, or even got to be, if you wanna help those sides to stay down. But they will lay flat. So you do that until it's flat. You do not want to go all the way to the front because you need that little sideburn piece. So I'm just going to stop right here because it's not really going to show you guys much with it being folded. But at least you have the technique. Okay? So this will be flat and then you'll have your little sideburn piece there. So what I'm going to do to this side is I'm going to leave this braid in. Remember I told you you're going to stitch across as you did on this side. You're going to stitch across. So you're going to take the braid out. You're going to stitch across. You're going to cut the air. And then you're going to start to sew back. So what I'm going to do on this side, I'm not necessarily going to demonstrate what I just explained, but I'm also not going to fold this. So I'm just going to bring it back and stitch it back as I did on the other side, so you can see how it starts to lay, how everything starts to get tighter and tighter and flatter. Now, as I go and as I stitch and as I pull the thread, I'm always asking my client, does that feel okay? Is that comfortable for you? Is that too tight? Because if they say it is, it's uncomfortable and it's too tight, you want to loosen up. Okay? We are not in the business to break anybody's hair. Edges are already scarce as it is, and we're trying to keep whatever we have. Okay? Okay. So, the edge of the lace, right? Remember, you're going to cut it. You're going to take the edge and you're going to over direct it back. So I'm not going to take it from here because I'm going to take it from where the braid stops. But you guys don't have to worry about this because it will be cut off. So I'm going to take it from where the braid stops. And I just want you to watch how this just tightens up. You might not be able to see it because it is HD, which is a great thing, but might not be too great for this demonstration purpose. So I'm taking it from the closest point to where it is on the head, the end flap. Okay. Going a little bit further down on the braid and taking it again. I'm pulling it over, directing it going back. You can see it starting to move with every pull that I do. Look. You saw how I just tightened it? You're gonna come down a little bit further on the braid. So you come down a little bit further on the braid. You grab it. And as you pull, look. You saw that? So loose, tight. Loose, tight. Okay? And that is it. But not it. Of course, you would do it. There is no specific amount of times that you do this part on the sides. You just do it until this part is flat enough. So I know it's hard to see, but there is no buckling. There is no buckling. The lace is flat up in here. There is no buckling. The lace is flat. Thank you guys for watching my video. I know it has been long requested for me to do it on a mannequin. So there you have it. And I hope it was detailed enough for you. I hope you were able to learn the technique and it's helpful to you and you do it on your client the next time. So if you are Jamaican or you support the Jamaican culture, then this brand is for you. Out of many, one people. It's for everybody. All right? Everybody stay blessed. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.